Welcome to Our Darling Town, the podcast where we explore the heart and soul of Darlington through its local independent businesses. I'm James Carver, alongside my brother Henry, and we're here to shine a spotlight on the vibrant entrepreneurial spirit of our beloved town. Join us as we sit down with passionate business owners, delve into their stories, and uncover the unique contributions they make to our community. Get ready to be inspired by the people who make Darlington truly special.
That was amazing, but what happened to the other introduction?
Well, we've evolved slightly as a podcast, so we thought we needed to update it.
I thought the other one was really, really good, but I mean, we haven't really discussed anything about walks, have we?
That's true. And hidden gems.
Yeah, hidden gems. Well, we've touched on a few things. We've touched on the likes of Crafty Merlin's. That's down Buxton's Yard, for example.
Very true.
Echo 3 Coffee House, that's been mentioned a few times. Yeah. Again, these are hidden gems, so they're very relevant.
But I think I wanted to update the intro. Your intro is very, very good. And maybe your delivery is slightly better, so you can read it next time. I've done it
7 times. This is our 8th episode.
That's true. That was my first attempt. So although the practice this morning, the kids thought it was very good. So
excellent.
I'll be better next time.
No, it's great.
But I think it's just sort of showing that the podcast is evolving.
Absolutely.
We started off planning that it was going to be a monthly podcast, just a little bit about Darlington. We're now doing it every couple of weeks, and we're hoping we're going to continue to do it every couple of weeks.
Whilst you were hobbling up the stairs, you were saying that it feels like a bit of a second home here, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Absolutely. And we're a little bit more relaxed.
Well, hopefully. Why are we hobbling?
I did a little run on Sunday, which... I did the Manchester Marathon, which I've been training for about 3 months. Myself, Helen, and the kids went down. Yeah. And a great day. Didn't quite go how I was expecting. I was hoping for a PB, but it didn't go to plan. So from mile 8, I was struggling a little bit. So
that's a long way to go if you're struggling after mile 8. And
but I think by that point,
wasn't your day.
Yeah, I'd realised it wasn't going so well. So I slowed down a fair bit and enjoyed it, and there was a world record set for the fastest marathon of people in a 6-man fancy dress costume.
Right. What fancy dress were they in?
They were a caterpillar.
Right.
So they had those
like the hungry caterpillar.
Yeah, those tubes that kids can crawl through, or like you see on dog agility classes.
Yeah.
They had a section of that between them, and they ran it in under 3 hours.
That's ridiculous.
Pretty good, eh?
Did they not have an advantage? They just have a really fast run at the front, pulling the rest
carries
of them.
Just
carrying the rest of them. Would that not have helped for you if you were in a 6-man caterpillar outfit?
Yeah. If I had a piggyback, that would be a lot better. Survived the Easter holidays?
Just about. We had it really quite easy. The kids have been to Hummer's Knot Active, where they they're there from 9 o'clock till 4:30 most days. They get absolutely knackered by the end of it. So we get them back, and they've had a great active day. Yeah. Also went away for 3 nights without the kids, so that was also quite good. Went to the Lake District and enjoyed plenty of beer, 2 dips in Lake Windermere, which was chuffing freezing.
Yeah, but it was.
But certainly cured the hangover.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, our parents had my boys. Yeah. Took them to various places. Hampsley Forest, which is on the doorstep, obviously.
Brilliant.
Not really a hidden gem, but there you go. That's relevant to the introduction. And obviously, Darlington's got so many amazing places around it, all within sort of an hour and a half striking distance. They took them to the Life Centre. In Gateshead, or Newcastle side. Yeah. Sorry for those.
Newcastle.
Right. Newcastle side, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. So we've got plenty of pictures of them, in lab coats doing experiments and various things.
I took my eldest up to the Life Centre. When was it? I think it was probably January time. We got the train up, which was an event in itself.
I remember you saying.
And it's just perfect if you get the train because it's a 2-minute walk.
Yeah.
And there was so much to do. There was a rocket expedition, or like a mad scientist showing different rockets and things, which was amazing.
So the mad scientist had hair like that then?
Yeah, I said before we need to update that photograph. It looks like I've got a toupee on or something, doesn't
you got a comb over, which I think you said I was the only one at the time that told you it looked ridiculous.
Yeah, my barber Lewis, who does listen to this, did mention that we need to update the photograph because he's made me look a little bit smarter with my hairstyle. Why did no one tell me? Come on.
Yeah, I mean I did, but who listens to the little brother, right?
Very true. Very true.
Talking about hidden gems, I want to mention one place that I've only been to in the last week or so, but my boys absolutely love it. They're 5 and 7, very, very active, absolute live wires. And we've taken them to Ibex bouldering, which is genuinely a really hidden spot.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's been there for about 4 years, I think the owner was saying. So you turn up, you have to watch an induction video, sign a waiver, so you know if you hurt yourself, obviously, it's not their fault. And then bouldering, it's as if it's a full-size climbing wall, but on the side. So you're only going up to possibly about 2.5-3 meters or so. But yeah, when you're up there, it certainly feels
a long way.
Yeah, especially for a 5 and a 7-year-old. Yeah, they feel like they're climbing 20-30 meters.
Yeah.
But they absolutely love it. They've got little challenges within the wall that you've got to do certain colours and various things. Best thing about it, you'll see why I'm getting excited now. It's got a couple of beer pumps. So for the adults, do a bit of bouldering, get the kids there, and then you can have a beer afterwards.
Fantastic.
So
that was Easter holidays?
Yeah. Last week, took them there twice.
Brilliant.
And they absolutely love it. But it's just next to Bert's Carpets off Eastmount Road.
Yep.
So you've got Valley Street, where the likes of Juicens and various different building merchants are. But it's a great spot. Highly recommended.
I'm going to check that out. I think the kids would love it.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think my wife would love it as well. One of our first dates was bouldering.
Was it really?
Yeah, she was at university up in Newcastle, and we thought we'd do an active date. Went there, me thinking I'd be absolutely brilliant. Didn't realise that she did it quite a lot. Yeah. And I got really frustrated because she was miles better than me.
That's the same with most things, though, in your relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a better human being, isn't
she? It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. I'll tell you where we went to. Formotion. Have you been there before? On Faverdale, sort of the indoor skate park.
Yeah.
Which Freddie, my eldest, absolutely loved. So went and hired a scooter and was going off the ramps and stuff. And absolutely brilliant fun. Yep. And then a bit of food in the indoor market as well, which was busy. It was good to.
What did you go for?
Parmo.
Nice.
Actually, Helen had a Parmo. Yeah. We actually went and got a takeaway from Tao because I really like sushi, which I think is mentioned every single episode.
Yeah, without fail.
Yeah.
When I saw it on the little bullet points here, I was just like, oh, there again.
He's back again.
He's back again. You definitely want to get them on as guests, don't you? So you can basically get free food for a year or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Very good indeed.
Maybe.
Another place the kids went to. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I was working on Saturday, just gone. But they went to Raby Castle. They absolutely love it there. They're spending a lot of money at Raby, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're doing like a lot of they're doing a big garden restaurant, aren't they? That overlooks the new gardens that they've done.
Yep.
So they thoroughly enjoy it there. They go and see the deers and they go around on the bikes and scooters and things.
Did you go in the treetop play area?
What's it called again? Crikey. Plotters Forest.
That's it, yeah.
No, they didn't. But because we've got a membership to Raby, you don't have to pay every time you go. So you just have to book a slot.
Yeah.
But they know that place inside out.
Yeah.
And as do I. But I'm near enough confident now that we can sort of sit and have a coffee and let them just run wild.
Brilliant.
Whereas the first few times you go, they could definitely get lost.
Yeah.
But it's...
Your two boys will be riding a stag or something through the grounds, or they'll come out of the castle with a suit of armour on.
Yeah, probably. But no, luckily when they're in Plotters Forest, we're pretty confident that they can't escape.
Yeah.
They haven't tried to escape yet. I think they probably could.
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, they haven't yet. But that's just about it for the sort of the wrap up for the Easter holidays.
Today we're diving into the realm of conscious consumption and eco-friendly living with today's guest, who's at the forefront of all things green. I'm thrilled to introduce to you Joseph Baggaley, the visionary behind Earth Warriors, a haven for sustainable shopping nestled in the heart of Darlington. Joseph isn't just running any old shop. He's leading a charge towards a greener, more environmentally conscious future for his community. Full of an array of plastic-free products, from wholesome grains to luxurious soaps, essential oils, and even organic wines. But it's not just about the products, it's all about the mission. Joseph is on a mission to help our community reduce household waste and embrace a lifestyle that's kinder to the planet. So whether you're a seasoned eco-warrior or just starting your journey towards a greener lifestyle, get ready to be inspired as we chat with Joseph about all things Earth Warriors, sustainability, and the power of small changes to make a big impact.
God, I need to hire you for my social media or something. That was brilliant.
So Henry normally does the introductions, but I've been tasked with it. So that was my first introduction. I hope it did
No,
it
that
justice.
was class. That was brilliant. Yeah,
Good.
Better than I could say.
Clip
probably.
that up and put it out there.
I know. Yeah. Like this is my new slogan for the shop. Yeah.
Maybe slightly wordy.
No, I like it. I like wordiness. Like I've written my own book and everything, so like I'm quite good with words generally.
Yeah.
Not so much in front of the cameras. Probably, I'm probably going to be.
Just
a bit
forget
like,
what cameras.
What cameras?
What cameras.
Yeah, I know.
So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
We've never met, so tell us a bit about yourself, please.
I'm Joseph. I moved up to Darlington when I first moved out of my parents' house. I think I was about 25, 26 before that happened. But so it was a brilliant place to move to because it's very, very cheap rent and things. The housing, I think, is cheap compared to where you can be in the country. And
affordable. We
Yeah.
don't like to cheapen. Come on.
I know, I shouldn't be going to you guys, should I? I was traveling quite a lot, so it was like kind of undermining my eco ethos a little bit to work and things. So I was like, I really need to find a job in Darlington once I'd moved here. And just on the way kind of back into Darlington, because I was working in Wensleydale, so it was quite a journey, really.
Yeah, it is.
And obviously lovely kind of countryside, and then you come into Darlington. I thought, this is the kind of town that I really like the aesthetics of, especially when you come into sort of through the west end of Darlington I was coming up into when I lived around Cockerton area. And all the kind of trees that kind of intrude onto the road and things, I thought are really, really pretty. Like, they haven't like cleared all the trees out of the way. They've kind of tried to work around them. And it's that kind of thing that I really kind of like and really fell in love with Darlington when I first moved here, was kind of one of those things.
So how far after you moved here then did Earth Warriors come about?
So I actually purchased Earth Warriors from the previous owners a couple of years ago. Yeah. So it's gone by so fast, but I've kind of tried to reinvent it a little bit with getting my alcohol license and being able to sell like organic wines and things like that and do
now
wine.
We're talking.
Yeah, exactly. And do my wine tastings and things like that as well.
You've got a good audience for that in Darlington.
Yeah. I know. I walk past a lot of pubs and they're always packed in the morning. I'm like, this is the
route to go.
This is one of the avenues I could probably exploit a little bit. But I do wine tastings like every few months or so. I've just recently kind of exhausted the supply that I've got of because I work with a wholesaler called Sustainable Wine Solutions. And they do like refills on the bottles. So the customer will bring back the bottles to me, and then they'll get a 50p deposit back on the bottles because they'll get sent back to the supplier and refilled rather than blowing more glass to create the bottles each time. And you'll see on some of the labels, like they'll be scuffed and you'll be like, oh, that looks a bit less aesthetically pleasing, I guess. But you know that that's been reused, so it's kind of nice in that way. Yeah. And I've kind of just about hit the limit on the number of wines that they do. So when I've done wine tastings, I've gone, oh, God, like, I need something fresh. I need to keep it, because I can't constantly do the same tasting over and over again. Otherwise, people would just go, well, we've had these wines before, you know. So finding more suppliers and using my current suppliers through, like, Sumer I use for most of the things. I do also shop around quite a lot and have a lot of different suppliers. I know you had Andy on, and he was talking about a lot of the different suppliers he uses. Yeah. And I'm kind of the same. I like to kind of shop around, find the highest quality things and products that people want. And a lot of the time people will say, oh, do you stock this? And I'll say, well, no, but like, let me see if I can find it for you, because I could potentially get you in a full case and make it way cheaper than you would get on Amazon, for example, because that's a lot of people's go-to if they can't find it in a regular shop. And I go, well, if I have the ability to buy it in a lot cheaper than you can buy it online elsewhere, and I don't need to store it on my shelves because you're just buying a full case, say of 6 of something, then it benefits everybody for me to just go, okay, well, I won't charge you the recommended retail price. I'll add a little bit on because I am a business at the end of the day, but you'll still save money. So it's a really kind of good way of doing things, I think. And I think that the wine tastings have definitely helped a lot because I'm selling an experience as well. It's not just selling the products and things. So I tend to charge about £10 per person on the night. And I can usually seat about 15 people in the shop. Brilliant. And we had one a couple of weeks ago that was a full sellout. So that was brilliant. And so it says that people at least want to come back.
Yeah. When's the next wine tasting?
So a couple of Fridays' time. Okay. So not this Friday, next Friday. It's the 26th, I think it is, of April. 7 p.m.
Do you know, 2 weeks ago, we were sat here trying sweets from Andy.
We should have brought some wine in.
We didn't. We obviously didn't make that as a condition, did we?
Early for that.
But it's not. It's far from just wine. That's obviously been how you've evolved as a business, which is
definitely
sort of sensible. Could you tell us about some of your other products? If people have never heard of you or Eco Warriors, what if they came into the shop? What sort of things can they find?
Yeah. So. It started out as like a full zero waste shop where you'd get all your beans, pulses, cereals and things like that, and nuts, seeds, legumes, and doing it as a refill mechanism. So you'd go in with your own container, or you'd pick up one of our recycled paper bags and fill them up, and you'd take the weight off of the actual container so that you're only paying for the weight of the goods. The old kind of way of doing it, I always say, like the old weigh and save type thing. And one of the things that I've tried to do as well since I took over was to try and find out what the big supermarkets charge for things, and then try and be as competitive as I can with those prices. So I'll have like labels on the shelf that will tell you exactly what like Sainsbury's or Tesco or Aldi even charge for those things. And then you'll have a frame of reference. Because the problem with the weigh and save system is that a lot of people don't really have a frame of reference. They sort of know that if they buy a bag of pine nuts, that it costs them such and such. But per 100 grams, not everybody thinks in those terms. So,
just touching on pricing there, is it a misconception that being environmentally friendly is more expensive?
I think it is and it isn't. It depends if you're comparing the like for like, because a lot of the products that I sell, like when it comes to refillable laundry liquid and washing up liquid and things, are very, very good for people with skin sensitivity issues and things like that. So if you're comparing for like an own brand type thing where they can produce it en masse, full of like really harsh chemicals that aren't necessarily great for your skin, then yes, you would find it cheaper in a supermarket. If you were buying like an Ecova kind of equivalent, which is known for being a little bit more eco-friendly, it's not 100% as sustainable because it's not a closed loop system. Like my containers, the 20-litre one, kind of ones for the laundry liquid will get sent back to the supplier and refilled. So it is like a kind of closed loop system in that way, whereas all the other ones, you're buying a 500ml container every single time. And the surface area of each one of those little ones is a greater amount of plastic than one 20-litre one that you can refill from, that will then get refilled as well.
So I think a lot of people, we try our best to be sort of as eco-friendly as we can, and we use Ecova, but unfortunately would probably buy it online. It comes once every 6 weeks or whatever, and it's still not making the right impact. So I think last time I popped in, I came and filled up a washing up liquid thing for you, which was absolutely brilliant, and it was cheaper than we would normally buy. I felt brilliant popping down, having a chat with you, refilling, doing my little bit for the environment, and it works brilliantly. So
I know, it's I'm really into comedy and things, and one of my favourite comedians was Sean Locke, and one of my favourite expressions one of his favourite lines that he'd come out with was talking about recycling and things, and he was saying every time he throws something into his recycling bin, he kind of feels like he's turning up to a volcanic eruption with a dustpan and brush, and it's like but like if 8 billion people on Earth turned up with dustpan and brushes, you could clean up the ash from Mount Vesuvius's explosion for Pompeii in like 2 days. And it's like, it's all about that perspective, and every little bit really does help. But when the infrastructure in your country means that everybody's really good at recycling, but the infrastructure can't keep up with it, we actually send 500,000 metric tons to like a lot of Asian countries will just like we'll pay them to take our recycling and stuff, because what we don't fully recycle, we often burn for energy, and then we have excess even on top of that. So you can imagine, like, even trying to do your best isn't necessarily even going the full way towards a sustainable.
So less plastic, less recycling, and it's moving from recycling to reusable.
Yeah, so there's a reason why we say reduce, reuse, recycle. There's a reason it's in that order.
Yeah.
Because reduce is the single most important thing we can do.
Yeah.
And then if you can reuse things as well, that has a slightly lower order of priority, but it does have some, positive benefit. And then recycle if you really can't do anything else with it.
Yeah. Do you think people's mentality has changed slightly over the last few years? I mean, one example is everyone at work's got reusable water bottles, which if you look back maybe 5 years plus, people didn't have them. I don't think people drank water then, apparently, but now everyone has a reusable water bottle.
Yeah, and everybody is focusing on hydration a lot of the time as well and looking after the health in general. We're trying to do those kind of things. And I think that we can try and eat more healthily and things like that, but there are other kind of sides. I'm really into all the kind of science behind everything to do with the planet and the climate and things as well. And one of the things that I'd learned not that long ago was the more carbon you have in the atmosphere, the more people will say, oh, well, carbon is good for plants. It will help them grow faster, so therefore we'll get bigger yields. And it's like, well, yes, that's true. But also, if you have a glass of water and you had a certain amount of, squash, you're not necessarily getting more squash just because you pour more water in. So the nutrients inside the foods are actually decreasing over the years. So unless we start eating way healthier, we're actually becoming less and less healthy because of the other kind of knock-on effects of the carbon emissions and stuff. So it's another reason to kind of go green. If you are thinking, oh, well, I want to look after my health and everything, there's other effects of trying to be more sustainable in the way that we eat and things as well. So,
What's your background and what sort of... Was there any influence for yourself growing up to become more environmentally friendly? Was it a peer group? Was it an individual? Was it a book that you read, or even indeed a film on Netflix, or what have you? Was there?
I always make a joke. I don't know if it's appropriate for the podcast, so I'll try and phrase it a little bit more nicely. But I sort of looked to my grandma and said, okay, she kind of has a lot of these kind of views that are very much reminiscent of her time and her growing up and things. And I sort of went to myself, well, if in 50 years' time I have kids or grandkids, what would they be looking at me going, that's an attitude of your time. That's you being a product of your time. And I sort of went, well, okay, so if we kind of cast our minds forward and think about climate change and things like that, and sustainability and the plastic pollution that we see, because we see on TV quite a lot now of these documentaries and stuff where they'll show you beaches filled with plastic and how it's
turtles with rings behind the things around the neck and things. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's like, well, if I can do things to kind of almost make myself feel better at the same time as absolving myself of any kind of guilt in relation to that, because I can kind of go, well, I did my best at least. I tried to encourage other people to do the same. And so I kind of went, okay, so if those are the things that I might be judged on in the future, if I do them now, I can kind of go, well, I tried to be part of the solution rather than just kind of getting by and doing the same thing that everybody else does. And so when I saw the Earth Warriors had first started back in 2019 by a local couple to Darlington, I started shopping with them. Even though I worked in a grocery store, I would still go to them for everything that I could get from them. And if there were other things, I would still supplement from the supermarket I worked in or other supermarkets. So it's not necessarily about being a one-stop shop and having literally everything. It's just see what kind of range we have, see what kind of substitutions you can make, see if you can do that reduce part of the triangle, and try and get a little bit closer towards that sustainable lifestyle. So,
and you mentioned sort of there's a bigger issue perhaps with the infrastructure, for example, what we can recycle as opposed to what other countries can recycle.
Yeah.
I mean, is that going to change? I mean, can it change, or is it just a case of we're doing what we can do to sort of tick a few boxes?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much sort of progress we're making on it, really. Those statistics that I've cited are admittedly probably from 2018 or something like that, 2019. So there might be some progress in that way to create more recycling infrastructure and things. Yeah. But I know that they are, some of my customers are really against the incinerators that we've got, and we're trying to build more incinerators. And yes, it will produce energy, but you're also putting out a lot more carbon into the atmosphere, and also not particularly nice chemicals into the atmosphere from the plastic, because you smell burning plastic. It's not great.
You may or may not know. I don't know if it's true, but I heard. Do you know the supermarkets? Try to be environmentally friendly, so they have, for example, soaps. You buy the little Carex soap with the little plunger, and then they'll have a big thing next to it in a plastic bag, basically, with a little screw top lid. And then you take that big thing home, you put it in the utility room, and then you fill up your oh dear, lights are off. Are we still rolling? Brilliant. So
trying to save electric. Yeah. That's the thing. They're trying to be eco-friendly for us.
We should have sat in the dark. We could do this in the dark.
Someone heard you were coming. Going back to that sort of environmentally friendly option from the supermarket, I heard that, this is why I'm asking you, that the bag that it comes in, so you can take that home and refill your little Carex things, isn't actually recyclable itself.
Yeah.
So you can't actually then take that, you can't put that in recycling, basically.
Yeah. No, I've had this exact thing because I've had people asking me for Ecova kind of refills, and I do have the ability to get a 15-litre box in. It's a cardboard box, and visually when you're ordering it from the suppliers, you'll see it in the cardboard box and you go, oh, cool. So I'll get that in, and then when you open up the bag, it'll be like there'll be a non-recyclable bag inside it, and you go, okay, well, what was the point in that then? Yeah. It will cut down some amount of plastic, because obviously if, like I talk about, the surface area of the actual thing is using less plastic overall, but compared to all the normal 500ml 1 litre bottles or whatever you've got, or 750, a lot of them are, they will actually be recyclable plastic. So it's like, well, which one is actually better? So there are benefits, I suppose, in a way. I have heard, I've never really seen any in the supermarket like you describe, but I have heard people saying they're actually more expensive to refill than to do it just in a full bottle. Yeah. And whereas I actually make a conscious decision to make sure that it's always cheaper, and quite significantly cheaper to do it as a refill as well. Yeah. Some people do like to have the bottles match the scents and the ingredients to match the things that they've got as a refill. So that's quite important for some people who do, like I say, have skin sensitivity issues and stuff. They like to know what the ingredients are, but then they can just keep refilling the same bottle over and over again. And a lot of those bottles are recycled plastic to begin with anyway. So it does.
For a lot of people going and doing their weekly or fortnightly supermarket shop, where sort of environmentally sort of friendly ethos falls on their priorities is probably 3 or 4 down the list. It's probably cost, I would say, is
convenience,
and then you look at ultimately where the supermarkets place their products that they want to push, and all the red stickers that say reduced, etc. It's a very clever thing that supermarkets do. But what would you say to that sort of person, and how would you entice them to be more environmentally friendly, if ultimately cost and time and convenience was high up on their priorities?
Yeah, I suppose I've sort of had the luxury a little bit of being a single person who's not got any dependents. I've got no children, I've got nobody relying upon me. So when I was working quite far away from Darlington, and I was working in retail, so I was earning very much, well, it would be less than minimum wage now since I've moved, but that's because the minimum wage has gone up. So I'm not really, really wealthy, like I'm not a massively big earner, but I was still able to kind of shop with Earth Warriors before I actually started owning it.
Yeah.
So I think there is definitely something to be said about the expense for certain products, but there are definitely some smaller substitutions that you can make, like the nuts, seeds, and legumes. Like I say, they are quite well matched for the supermarket kind of prices. And
how does the taste compare? That's one thing I didn't mention on the priority.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's quality.
A lot of them are like organic, but some of them aren't. It's just about the availability and things. And sometimes you have to buy things in huge, like 10 kilo boxes and things. And you're like, well, I don't think I could sell that much before it'd go out of date. So it's probably better to just get something non-organic. But I do fully appreciate that people have their own lives, and you know it can be low down on their priority list. And I think it's just about making the changes that you can and where you can, essentially. Because I've said to people who've like sort of said to me online when I brought down the price of my gluten-free pasta, I was like, look, I'm not really making any money on this because people don't choose to be gluten-free. So I really want to kind of match this price as best as I can with the regular organic pasta that we do. And somebody was saying, well, that's basically the same price as I would pay at Morrison's. I was like, well, yeah, but like my packaging comes in like a biodegradable bag, and it's like 5 kilos, so you're saving on the plastic anyway. And you know, you can do it as a refill, so you can choose how much you actually want rather than getting too much and then throwing some away or whatever you know. And it is, I said, you know, if you literally can't afford to do it and you've had a look around and you go, like, this isn't for me, like, I fully appreciate it. Like, I know that I'm kind of relying on people who do have the luxury of time and do have the luxury of being able to buy more eco-friendly products, because there might be a small amount of difference, but I'm trying to take on as much of that as I can to try and be as competitive as I can, especially like when you compare Ecova in the supermarket with Ecova, or like my kind of minimal products or my EcoLeaf products.
What's Ecova? Sorry, is that the washing detergent?
So they do like laundry liquid and washing up liquid and things like that. Right. And they're kind of seen to be the most eco-friendly brand that you would have in supermarkets and things like that. But a lot of people who own shops like mine, we have a group on Facebook where they're saying that they were bought out by a much bigger company who aren't necessarily as focused on those kind of things. Right. So they can be a lot better for your skin sensitivity and things like that. Yeah. So they do have the benefit of a lot of the kind of similar ingredients. But buying from a company like Minimal, who do the refills, and they're West Yorkshire based, so they're not coming like super far. Great. So there are a lot of benefits, and I can kind of price match very well to those as long as you're doing the refill and not buying the full bottle. So
yeah. Couple of words that are used quite often: biodegradable and compostable. I think I know the difference, but ultimately I don't know. You know, biodegradable, it biodegrades over a number of years. But I mean, how many years does it take? Is there a definitive definition in order to class themselves as biodegradable?
Yeah, it's one that where you'll see all sorts of very confusing kind of language where they'll say oxo-biodegradable and things like that. Yeah. So it's like oxygen will help it to break down. I think I'm talking the right kind of thing when it comes to that. But yeah, like I do have compostable packaging crisps, which I think they require like a more industrial kind of composting than you would get from.
You can't just put it in the garden compost bin.
Yeah, right. But at least it's not plastic. That's the thing, you know. And
so ultimately, if it ends up in landfill, it's going to just completely, degrade over time.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm right in saying that I did buy in some menstrual products the other week, and very similarly to how I spoke about the gluten-free pasta, I was like, I've always been against the VAT on menstrual products, so I would be a hypocrite to try and make money off them. Okay. So I was like, I will just charge like the minimum that I can, basically. And they are like organic, and I think I have seen people using them in their compost as well, and they actually do fully break down in your own compost. So I've tried to be as competitive as I can in those kind of ways with certain products as well. So
So the phrase biodegradable then, it doesn't mean it has to biodegrade within a certain time?
I think it sort of probably depends on what goes into it. I know that there's a lot of like starch-based kind of products and things like that which would literally break down quite well. Yeah. There's I sell a lot of the dog poo bags and stuff, and they're a very, very popular one for us. Yep. And they're like something my mum put me on to, because she was like, she's got 2 dogs, my mum and dad have, and there's so many ones that do kind of greenwash their products and say that they're more environmentally friendly than they necessarily are. Yeah. And so those kind of ones would fully like break down after a certain amount of time.
While we're on dog bags, can I just point out my biggest pet hate, and I'm sure everyone's the same, but a dog owner picking up within the dog bag their, the dog's business.
Little present.
And then just leaving it on a wall or hanging it on a tree. I was like, if you're going to go as far as bagging it up, take it to a chuffing bin. If you don't want to bag it up, just flick it into the long grass and be done with it. So anyway, that's my little rant over.
Well, I always say, like, I just kind of find it ironic that this highly useful fertilizer that is the dog poo is picked up and put into a plastic bag that won't break down. And it's like, when I see people do that with like leaves and things as well, I know they can kind of clog drains and stuff. Yeah. But for the most part, especially around parks and things, like I wouldn't be that concerned about sweeping them up and putting them into plastic bags. They literally will break down. So it's
exactly right. Just go and find a nice area that you can just litter with all the leaves. Absolutely. But they'll disappear within a few months, won't they?
Yeah.
And some of the products you mentioned that are popular, the wine, obviously, the dog poo bags. But when I've been in, you've got a huge variety of cosmetics, soaps of all different. You said flavours there. Hopefully you don't eat the soap, but all different scents and things like that.
I know.
But also I got some shaving soap.
Yeah.
Which has been brilliant. I've shaved this morning using it, and it's
done the job.
Very good. But also reusable razor blades as well, which I think. So would you tell us a bit more about your cosmetic products?
Yeah, I did. I was very conscious about making sure I looked more presentable this morning, because I did have a shave this morning. I usually just shave the neck and then sort of line up at the top.
Yeah.
And using those kind of shaving bars and things, they do last a really long time because I'm not shaving like all the time. It's more like 3 times a week, twice a week or something. But they will just have like little cardboard boxes. So there's no plastic at all with that. And I just rub it onto my hand, start rubbing it into my face with a bit of water, create the lather up, and then you can shave that way. And it's a really kind of cost-effective way of doing it, rather than buying all these kind of tins of foam and stuff that only last for so long. And does just as good of a job, I think. Yeah. And I have my own double-bladed, like the old-style safety razor. Yeah. And there's a video of me on Facebook where I was talking about and doing a narration over it for my business page. And I was sort of like, if you really want to cut your face to ribbons, try this. But it was my first kind of use and foray into that kind of style of razor, because, the big brands, we all know the big brands of the kind of razor blades and stuff, they will charge an absolute fortune for those kind of things. Yeah. And that is, you're paying literally like 10p, 15p, 20p per razor that has 2 different sides and will last you multiple shaves. Yeah.
Whereas you can buy a box of razor, 15 quid?
Yeah.
Much as that, which is very, very expensive.
I looked at when I actually published that video, and it was like April last year, and I only changed the blade. I mean, I probably should have changed it earlier, but I got away with not changing it for 8 months. And that was one head. Yeah. And that had cost like 20p or something like that. Yeah. And I did recently discover the way that I was holding the razor blade wasn't actually ideal, because I was sort of holding it by the end of the handle, and there was like an extra bit of the handle there, and I was sort of like holding it here and trying to get my aim, but putting my finger up towards the actual blade, so it's not actually catching my hand, but using it sort of as a guide. Using your finger as a guide, you can actually get a lot closer shave and a lot better lines and things. So things like that are substitutions that people can make for their everyday life if they're concerned about costs. Because it's a bit of an investment to buy a safety razor, but once you've got it for life, and then the razor blades are recyclable, and instead of the kind of cartridges that you get that are thrown into landfill, and they cost pennies. So
just on the same sort of theme, sort of cans and aerosols and things, do you do deodorants as well?
So we do like deodorant sticks and things. We do there was one that appeared on Dragon's Den that had a competitor called Wild. So Fussy appeared on Dragon's Den. So a lot of people have asked me for Fussy, but Wild do basically exactly the same thing, where they'll have like a little aluminium tin, and you'll turn the bottom and it will force up the the deodorant stick, and you can just apply it and it'll work, basically reacting with the heat of your body to melt onto you, and it reacts with your sweat.
Yeah.
So I've noticed when I've applied it in the morning, I've been like, oh, that's a really nice kind of coconutty scent. And then as I've sweated throughout the day, it will actually get stronger because it's working with the sweat, and I'll go, I actually smell better when I'm going to bed than I do in the morning. So it's quite a nice kind of product. And we do have a lot of those kind of ones. We have like the crystal rock kind of ones. I'm not really sure even how they work because people have asked me to get them in, and then I've been like, cool, yeah,
we'll go for
that.
it.
Yeah. And we have a lot of kind of those stick ones as well, but I think the wild ones are definitely the most popular because you can get little refills for them, little cardboard packaging that you can just rip, and then, like you say, we've got loads of soaps and things like that, and that's one of the first things people say when they come in is the smell in the shop is lovely because there's so many of these, and I always try and take it as a compliment to me and my wild, but it is a really lovely scent because there are so many open soaps that you can just bag up in little paper bags and things, and it's
great. I'm interested to know more about your book. You mentioned at the beginning that you'd written a book and you're good with words, things like that. Tell us how that came about and what it's about.
I always try and look on the bright side of everything, like twist everything into a positive. Because I feel like that is one of the most beneficial things for people's mental health, is literally any kind of problem that you have in life. If you can try and find any kind of positive in it and twist it in a way and go, well, that could have benefited me in this way, then it can do wonders for your mood and for your mental health in general, I think. And one of the things that I tried to do was I actually damaged my laptop when I was writing my first book, and I'd lost like 20,000 words, and it was non-recoverable because I'd literally damaged the corner of the laptop right on the hard drive, and it was bent, so it was literally non-recoverable. And I was like, oh God, I've lost 20,000 words here. But then when I started a new book, there was a completely different tangent. It was a romantic comedy novel with little kind of seeds of 50 Shades of Grey kind of scenes in there. Because I feel like that appeals to a lot of people nowadays.
I was not expecting that. Genuinely, I was waiting for you to say something to do with what you do now. I thought it was going to be more of an educational
tale. No, nothing like that, no.
Amazing.
It's 79,000 words, probably 79,500. And I'm very, very lazy as a person, so I should probably try and get a literary agent to try and publish it and things. But I feel like the way that I tried to look at losing the first book was that, okay, yeah, I've lost a lot of time and effort and work into that, but it's helped me a lot, learning it a lot as a writer. Yeah. And so the second book, I feel like, was so many times better. Yeah. Like the quality of my writing and things had improved drastically. Yeah. And I'd learned so much from it that I felt like that's a positive spin to put on something that has literally been so many hours of work down the drain.
So you say it's not published. Can we get hold of it at all?
So as much as I'm against Amazon, they do like free publishing where you could put it on there and they'll just take a cut. So I have thought about doing that if I wasn't picked up by a literary agent, but I just have to do the actual work of getting approached or approaching them. So I'd rather do it like the traditional kind of route, but the kind of, and it is a bit of a kind of thing where you go, I'd rather people kind of read it online and did it that way rather than buying the actual books. Otherwise, I have thought about this quite a lot where I go, okay, so how can I sort of balance out the fact that I'm Mr. Eco with all these books that are made out of paper and things, and go, well, I could do certain amount of the profits of the book would go towards tree planting and things like that. I wanted to do a couple more percentages to go towards issues that are really big and brought up in the book as well. So I won't reveal what they are, but certain charities and stuff, like a certain percentage to go towards each of those. Because I do try to take a lot of the very serious issues that come up in the book seriously. And so it is supposed to be a book that kind of appeals to everybody, but my family were always like, well, like if you try to appeal to everybody, you might appeal to nobody. Because it is a bit like, I always try and have a lot of the everyday banter that you have with your friends kind of sprinkled into the story between the characters and things. You go, well, how does that serve the plot of the book? And you go, well, some of my favourite TV shows ever were ones that just had random scenes where people would just be talking and having these back and forth conversations that were just funny. Yeah. And so it does have a bit of that. It does have a lot of drama, and it does have a lot of love. And it has a bit of everything from life.
A bit of spice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That sells books.
Yeah, my mum was a primary school teacher, and she read through it to grammatically correct it and stuff. And she was like, "This was really, really well written. Fantastic book. I could have done with less graphic." Very, just reading your son's. And I was like, you literally told me not to edit anything out for your benefit. Yeah. And as I was going through the book and reading through all her highlights, her corrections, I'd see like 5 or 6 yellow highlights per page of A4 where I'd forgotten to put a comma in or something like that. And I'd scroll through, and then suddenly there'd be like 10 pages of A4 where there was no corrections. And I was like, oh, wow, I've done really well there. And then suddenly they'd start to come back into them. And I was like, what was that chapter there? And I'd scroll back through, and it's like she didn't want to correct the word pens. So, I was like, okay, I get that.
I love that. I did not know that our conversation was going
to take that turn.
Raunchy, steamy rom-com books. Fantastic. Right, one last question from me, and obviously I'll let me pass it on to James and see if he's got any more. What's the easiest one thing that people listening to this could do to change in their everyday life that would actually help the cause, so to speak? Help being environmentally friendly?
See, I would like to say something that was self-promoting for the shop and things.
Shop at Earth Warriors.
But I actually think, like, because I've lived with a lot of different people throughout my years of living in shared accommodation, and I see a lot of people throwing out things that necessarily didn't have to be thrown out. And so I'd often take things out of the bin, wash them. I mean, I don't like to use excess water, so I'd do my washing up as normal for a night, and then I'd use the water from that to wash up like the like plastic pots or something like that, and then throw that into the recycling. And I know I've said like the infrastructure isn't necessarily there to be able to do it all, but hopefully being able to do little things like that and just being more aware of potentially if you see something that's roughly the same price on the shelf and you can kind of go, okay, well, this packaging isn't recyclable, but there is one next to it that is, you potentially make that kind of switch, as well as obviously coming to Earth Warriors.
Absolutely.
And if you were to sort of, if people were listening and they wanted to pop in and see you, whereabouts are you based? Where in Darlington are you?
I'm on Skinnergate, just opposite Skinnergate News, on the same side as Influence. So there's a lot of the building opposite is getting knocked down in the next couple of weeks, I heard.
Yep. That used to be Argos, is that
yes, right? Yeah. So there'll be a lot of roadworks and stuff, or a lot of work going on, construction work going on opposite me. So hopefully it doesn't disrupt trade too much, but
Do you think people could be intimidated in coming into a shop like yours? They might feel hypocritical if they don't live a sort of environmentally sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah, potentially. And I said when I first took over, I did actually want to change the name of the business because I felt that certain people might feel like it's very hippie to do kind of more eco-friendly shopping and things like that. So I wanted to have something more neutral. I really loved the name of the shop when it was Mutiny because it felt very kind of neutral and it's kind of cool name to it. But people kind of associate Earth Warriors maybe with more meditation and you know, chakras and all that kind of thing. And I feel like I wasn't ever one of those kind of people. I've never been like spiritual or anything like that. I've just always wanted to do kind of my bit. So it's one of those things where I feel like certain people might feel put off potentially by the name, maybe not necessarily the name, but yeah.
I would say just pop in and meet Joseph and have a chat, see what you've got to offer, and ask you questions. You've answered an awful lot of questions today.
You're going to have a horde of a certain category of readers coming to your shop wanting your book.
Yeah, on the black market.
Yeah, I have it as a PDF, and I have sent it to a few people to read, and they've all been very entertained.
The first on the list will be my wife. She absolutely loves reading. We've got probably over 300 unread books, and they're all fiction.
Yeah.
And they're all those sort of types of books that you've described. So she would absolutely love to get her hands on a copy, I'm sure. She reads about 50, 60 books a year, if not more. So
it's called ridiculous. Over Being Over.
Over Being Over.
Yeah.
Nice one.
So maybe one day we'll see it out there.
Absolutely, you heard it here first.
Absolutely. Well, Joseph, thank you very much for coming. It's been a really enjoyable conversation.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to popping in and seeing you again in the near future.
Absolutely.
And continuing to see you thrive.
Yeah. Hope so. Yeah.
Very good.
All right.